Professor Rajesh Mehta, 67, a respected academic at a prestigious Mumbai university, and Emily Carter, 25, a bright Canadian exchange student, seemed worlds apart, yet their lives became tragically intertwined. What began as mentorship turned into a secret affair hidden behind the campus's calm facade, a relationship fueled by obsession and secrecy. As whispers spread through quiet hallways and late-night meetings grew more frequent, the line between guidance and control blurred. The university, once a place of learning and safety, became the backdrop for a shocking descent into violence. In a story of forbidden desire, manipulation, and irreversible tragedy, the clash between experience and youth would culminate in a murder that stunned an entire campus and captured the world's attention. In 2022, the sprawling campus of a prestigious Mumbai university hummed with its usual rhythm of lectures, libraries, and student chatter. Amid the neatly trimmed lawns and historic academic buildings, Professor Rajesh Mehta moved like a shadow of authority. At 67, he had spent decades in the halls of learning, earning admiration for his intellect and dedication. Students respected him, colleagues consulted him, and yet few truly knew the man behind the polished exterior. Beneath the layers of respectability lay a private life that was carefully hidden, one that even his closest friends could not have imagined. Emily Carter, a 25-year-old exchange student from Canada, arrived on campus full of hope and ambition. She was bright, determined, and eager to impress her professors. Her fascination with literature and her keen analytical mind quickly brought her into Rajesh's attention. What began as ordinary academic guidance soon became something more intense. Rajesh, initially cordial and encouraging, found himself drawn to Emily in ways that went beyond mentorship. Emily, flattered and intrigued, began to respond in kind, unaware of the dangerous path this would set them both on. The university's serene atmosphere masked the subtle changes occurring behind the scenes. Emily's once carefree days were now filled with late-night meetings and secretive conversations. Rajesh, normally methodical, started showing signs of obsession, his routines disrupted by thoughts of her. Students walking past his office would notice the light burning late into the night, yet no one dared to question it. In the quiet corners of the campus, whispers began to circulate, though nobody spoke openly. The seed of a forbidden relationship had been planted, hidden beneath the veneer of academic propriety, and the seemingly peaceful campus was unknowingly becoming the stage for a story that would eventually spiral into tragedy. Emily's talent and dedication in literature did not go unnoticed. Rajesh began inviting her for extra guidance, ostensibly to help her refine her essays and research. These meetings, however, grew longer and more private, moving from his office to quiet corners of the campus where no one else could observe them. Emily initially believed this attention was purely academic, but subtle gestures and lingering looks began to suggest otherwise. The line between mentorship and personal interest became increasingly blurred, though Emily tried to convince herself it was harmless. As the weeks passed, the relationship took on a tension that neither could fully control. Rajesh, once disciplined and composed, started missing faculty meetings and ignoring his usual routines, consumed by thoughts of Emily. His colleagues noticed the change in his behavior, odd emails sent late at night, sudden withdrawals from social interactions, but no one could have guessed the true reason behind it. Emily, on the other hand, became more withdrawn from her friends. She avoided casual social gatherings and spent hours worrying about how to navigate the complicated feelings building between herself and the professor. Her bright, confident demeanor began to fade, replaced by anxiety and unease. The campus, which had always seemed safe and structured, now felt like a place of tension and secrecy. Students whispered about unusual late-night encounters near the library and faculty offices, yet nothing could be confirmed. The power imbalance between a 67-year-old professor and a 25-year-old student created a dangerous dynamic, one that Emily felt trapped in but could not easily escape. Rajesh's obsession grew in intensity, manifesting in controlling behaviors that remained hidden from the world. What had started as academic guidance was quickly becoming a dangerous entanglement, and both Emily and Rajesh were moving toward a path neither could foresee, one that would eventually shatter the calm of Th. Rumors began to ripple through the campus, subtle at first, barely audible over the hum of daily life. Emily was seen leaving Rajesh's office at odd hours, often with a nervous look on her face. Her friends noticed she was more withdrawn, avoiding casual conversations and skipping social gatherings she had once enjoyed. Some tried to warn her, sensing that her closeness with the professor might lead to trouble, but Emily brushed off their concerns, convinced she could manage the situation on her own. Meanwhile, faculty members began exchanging uneasy glances when Rajesh's behavior grew unpredictable. Late-night emails, unexplained absences from meetings, and the unusual secrecy surrounding his office raised quiet suspicions, though no one had proof of wrongdoing. Emily's life outside the classroom became increasingly strained. She was haunted by a sense of being watched, aware that the professor's attention, once flattering, carried a weight of obsession. Her social media posts, once light-hearted and carefree, began to hint at anxiety and unease, though she never mentioned Rajesh by name. Her academic performance remained strong, but those close to her could see the strain etched into her expressions. The campus, normally a place of study and camaraderie, seemed to close in around her, every hallway and library corner a reminder of the secret she carried. Rajesh, on the other hand, appeared calm to outsiders but was quietly spiraling. His obsession with Emily had grown deeper, manifesting in controlling behaviors that only he understood. He began tracking her routines and anticipating her movements, careful to maintain the illusion of normalcy to the outside world. What had started as a secret mentorship was evolving into something far more dangerous. Each day, the tension on campus thickened, unspoken and invisible, until it reached a point where the fragile barrier between propriety and obsession could no longer hold. Both Emily and Rajesh were being drawn deep. By early 2023, the tension between Emily and Rajesh had reached a dangerous level. What had begun as casual academic guidance had escalated into an obsession that neither could fully control. Emily, once confident and ambitious, began to feel trapped by the professor's relentless attention. Every attempt she made to regain personal space seemed to push Rajesh further into obsession. He monitored her movements subtly, ensuring he remained a constant presence in her life, even when she tried to avoid him. The campus, which had always felt like a safe and orderly place, now seemed oppressive, filled with shadows and unspoken threats. Emily began skipping classes and avoiding late-night study sessions, hoping to escape the growing pressure. Despite her efforts, Rajesh found ways to maintain contact, sending cryptic emails and insisting on private meetings under the guise of academic necessity. The imbalance of power weighed heavily on her. She feared the consequences of exposing him and worried about the scandal it could create. Each day brought a new layer of anxiety, a sense that she was being watched even when alone. The campus, usually vibrant with student life, now seemed silent and foreboding, as though it mirrored her growing fear. Rajesh's behavior, once methodical and disciplined, became erratic. He would appear in places Emily did not expect, lingering silently in hallways or waiting near her usual study spots. His obsession had evolved into a form of control, each action calculated to ensure she remained within his sphere. Emily realized that the situation had moved beyond anything she could manage on her own. Fear and uncertainty clouded her judgment, leaving her desperate for a solution that did not yet exist. The stage was set for confrontation, and the seemingly peaceful campus was on the brink of a tragedy that would shatter its calm. Both Emily and Rajesh were caught in a web of desire, fear, and obsession, moving toward a night that neither could have. Emily's anxiety continued to grow as Rajesh's obsession became more pronounced. She confided in a close friend, admitting that she felt unsafe but carefully avoiding the full truth about the professor's controlling behavior. The fear of scandal and judgment kept her silent, forcing her to navigate the dangerous situation alone. She began planning ways to distance herself, considering transferring classes or even leaving the campus entirely. Yet, every attempt to create space seemed to provoke Rajesh further. He became increasingly unpredictable, sending messages and making subtle appearances that made Emily feel constantly monitored. Rajesh, meanwhile, was carefully calculating his control over her. He tracked her schedule, anticipated her movements, and left traces of his presence that suggested both care and obsession. His home and office became repositories of his planning, filled with notes about her routines, her friends, and her preferences. What had once been an academic mentorship had now evolved into a psychological entanglement, a dangerous game in which Emily was unwillingly a participant. The pressure of this secret, unspoken dynamic began to weigh heavily on her, creating sleepless nights and moments of panic that she could not share with anyone. The campus, which had once felt like a structured environment of learning, now seemed suffocating. Every corner, every corridor, held reminders of Rajesh's relentless presence. Emily's friends tried to offer support, but she was careful not to reveal the full scope of the problem, fearing that the consequences would be catastrophic. Each day was a careful negotiation, an effort to avoid triggering Rajesh's obsession while still trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. The sense of impending danger grew, a shadow hovering over her academic life. The stage was being set for a confrontation, one that Emily feared but could not prevent, as Rajesh's fixation escalated toward a tragic, irreversible turning point. The night of March 14, 2023, began like any other, with the campus quiet under a heavy rainfall. The dimly lit library, usually filled with diligent students, had emptied long before, leaving only Emily working late on her research. She was alone, unaware that Rajesh had followed her from the shadows, determined to confront her one final time. His obsession, once subtle and secretive, had escalated into something dangerous and uncontrollable. Every calculated step he had taken over the past months had led to this moment. As the rain pelted the windows, Emily sensed an unusual presence. The library, which had always been a sanctuary of knowledge, now felt suffocating. Her instincts screamed that something was wrong, but before she could act, Rajesh appeared from the darkness, his intentions clear. A struggle ensued, chaotic and brief, the violent culmination of months of obsession and fear. The calm and orderly environment of the campus shattered in seconds, replaced by a scene of horror that would leave a lasting mark on everyone involved. Surveillance cameras later revealed the terrifying truth: Rajesh had entered the library after hours, cornering Emily in a secluded area. The evidence pieced together a chilling story of premeditation, obsession, and ultimately, murder. Emily's life, full of promise and ambition, ended abruptly, leaving shockwaves across the campus. The students and faculty who had once admired Rajesh could not reconcile the man they knew with the violence he had committed. In the aftermath, the campus was left in disbelief, its serene atmosphere replaced by grief and fear. The library, once a place of learning and refuge, became a symbol of tragedy. Rajesh's descent from respected professor to murderer was complete, a shocking reminder of how unchecked obsession and secrecy could spiral into irreversible consequences. The night had claimed a life and forever altered the course of everyone connected to the university. The morning after Emily's murder, the campus was gripped by shock and confusion. News spread quickly, and students and faculty alike struggled to comprehend how such a tragedy could occur in the heart of their once peaceful university. Police arrived promptly, securing the library and interviewing witnesses, though few had actually seen the events unfold. Initial statements were vague, leaving authorities to rely on evidence and careful investigation to piece together the horrifying sequence of events. Rajesh Mehta initially attempted to maintain an air of innocence. He claimed he had left the campus early that evening and denied any involvement in Emily's death. Yet, investigators quickly uncovered inconsistencies in his statements. Surveillance footage, fingerprints, and the forensic analysis of the library told a far different story. Cameras revealed Rajesh entering the library after hours, moving toward Emily's secluded study area. Traces of a struggle were visible, and his fingerprints were found on surfaces around the scene, confirming his presence and involvement. As the investigation progressed, Emily's personal journal became a crucial piece of evidence. Entries hinted at her growing fear, her attempts to distance herself, and her awareness of Rajesh's obsessive behavior. Combined with emails and other digital communication, a chilling portrait emerged of a professor whose obsession had escalated from mentorship to manipulation, and finally, to murder. Authorities pieced together how the power imbalance and secrecy had created a dangerous environment, one in which Emily had felt trapped and vulnerable. The media quickly seized upon the story, turning the university into a national spectacle. Headlines highlighted the shocking details of the affair, the age difference, and the tragic outcome. Students, staff, and the broader public grappled with the reality that a respected academic had committed such a violent act. The investigation not only sought justice. Rajesh Mehta's arrest sent shockwaves through the university and the wider community. The 67-year-old professor, once revered for decades of academic achievement, was now facing charges of murder, a fall from grace that stunned colleagues, students, and the public alike. The trial that followed revealed the full extent of his obsession with Emily Carter, a 25-year-old student whose promising future had been cut tragically short. Evidence presented in court, emails, journals, surveillance footage, and forensic analysis, painted a chilling picture of premeditation, manipulation, and an abuse of power that escalated into lethal violence. Emily's family, devastated by her loss, sought justice relentlessly. Their testimony highlighted the human cost of Rajesh's obsession, giving voice to a young life interrupted and a family left to grapple with grief. Friends and fellow students shared how Emily had struggled in silence, torn between fear, shame, and the desire to continue her studies. The trial underscored the dangers inherent in relationships marked by secrecy and power imbalance, and how quickly admiration and mentorship could turn into obsession and control. The university, too, faced scrutiny. Policies and procedures were examined, and administrators pledged reforms to ensure such a tragedy could never happen again. Counseling services were expanded, reporting mechanisms were strengthened, and staff received training to recognize and respond to warning signs of predatory behavior. The campus, once a symbol of learning and safety, carried the lasting mark of Emily's death, a reminder of the vulnerability that can exist even in respected institutions. Ultimately, justice was served as Rajesh was convicted and sentenced, but the scars remained. Emily's story became a cautionary tale about obsession, secrecy, and the consequences of unchecked power. Her memory inspired reforms and awareness, a tragic legacy that reminded everyone that vigilance